My Lord Captain. Yes, report. We have suffered 0 casualties and completed the mission without any issues whatsoever. My lord? Just wait. Something will happen. Nonsense, my lord. Nothing could ever possibly go wrong now. God, Emperor. Why? Fucking idiot. You had one job. Fucking idiot. What?
Hello. Do you have a minute to talk about your car's extended warranty?
Holy bag of fuck, mother, what? Saddest Rangers General Bradley 101 back at you with some more lore. And in today's video, boys and girls, we are taking a look at the unluckiest, most lovable poor boys ever. God, Space Marines. If you hate Space Marines, you love these guys. Why? Because who can hate the Lamenters? We're talking about the Lamenters. The sons of Sanguinius who just can't catch a break. Poor lads. Poor lads. So, as always in today's video, we'll be covering the history, chapter, Geneseed culture, armories, several companies, and all that lovely nonsense that we have about these good old boys. But before we get into today's video, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that lovely nonsense. Join out the Patreon if you want to support the channel. But enough of the shenaniganery out and about. I love you, I appreciate y'all, and let's get talking with the glorious and very sad Sons of Sanguinius. Time for Lamenters, baby, with their chapter history. So, the Lamenters were founded in the 36th millennium with something known as the Cursed Founding. Now, what is the Cursed Founding? Essentially, you had a bunch of coal wannabes on Mars who were just as ambitious but not nearly as talented and were like, hey, we're going to recreate the Geneseed of several different chapters to remove all the faults. You know, removing the wolfen nonsense from the Space Wolves, removing the Dark Angel's ability to not fuck around and be disloyal, and of course taking rid of the Red Thirst from the Blood Angels. Now, this worked. For the most part. They were very successful, but there was other issues regarding the Cursed Founding. The reason why it's called the Cursed Founding is that all the Astartes born from there have either turned traitor, died horribly, or are just assholes, except for the Lamenters. Now, because of this, people have garnered a reputation around the Cursed Foundings, and like they said, they hate them. To them, you're either doomed from the start, you're gonna be a heretic, or you're just gonna be a piece of shit. Because we have the Black Dragons and the Minotaurs, which are both pieces of shit. The Black Dragons are not descended from the Salamanders, I don't care because they are not nice. You have the Flame Falcons who blew up in flames and died. Then you have the Sons of Arturius and the Blood Gorgons. The Sons of Arturius either died or turned traitor, and the Blood Gorgons full-on turned traitor during the 37th millennium. And then you have the good old Lamenters. Now the Lamenters served faithfully and honorably, but being part of the Cursed Founding, people hated their guts. And, like I said, during the 37th millennium, when the Blood Gorgons decided that Khorne was better than the Emperor, the Lamenters decided, hey, we're not going to stick around here in the middle, because, well, this is just a bad idea. So they headed to the eastern fringes of the galaxy, and they decided to patrol around, because they're a crusade chapter, mind you, so they don't have a fortress monastery. So they went around on the border planets of the east, defending planet from planet, and they gained quite the reputation for being pretty good in the border fringes. Granted, in the core sector, people did not like them because, well, the core of the Imperium is pretty shit. I mean, everywhere in the Imperium is pretty shit, except for Ultramar.
Ultramar supremacy!
But they had a pretty good thing going on in the eastern fringes. People liked them, they did good work, they fought off raiders, and everything seemed to be fine. And they seemed to be cured from their Black Rage and Red Thirst. Pretty good, all things considered. That wasn't until the High Lord of Terror called them back to the inner core. Because a bunch of raiders had been coming out of the Eye of Terror, and they're like, hey, we need more hands on deck. So they, being the good boys that they are, followed, and they came back, and they were like, yeah, let's go. Now, during this time, while the Lamenters hadn't suffered any issues with the Red Thirst, they did, however, have an issue. That being bad fucking luck.
You serious?
Because every single event in which the Lamenters partook in, it went great for them in terms of winning the battle. In terms of actual casualties, it went fucking horrible. How? I don't know. It doesn't say how. But I imagine Sinch was like, fuck you. They got bad luck. Everything goes wrong. It's really bad for the poor boys. But despite that, they continue to serve dutifully and honorably. Though, either due to messing with their Geneseed, or the fact that, you know, they just have plumb bad luck, the Lamenters are very melancholic. They are sad boys. They are the presso espresso. They are the depressed emo person who actually ends up helping people and not shunning people. But in the year 537 M38, they were called back to serve. And then we have Fabulon the Armors over there, who was like, right, 9 times the charm. And he decided to attack with his 9th Black Crusade, notably the strategically important planet of Corellia. Shout out to Han Solo. There are only 2 chapters in the region, that being the Mortifactors and the Lamenters. But the Mortifactors are hilariously superstitious, and they're Ultramarine successors, which is fucking weird. So they refuse to fight alongside the Lamenters, believing that they are going to do something bad, and they just dipped and left the entire planet. They're like, hey, fuck you. So the already understrength defense was cut in half. But the Lamenters, being the lads that they are, they were not going to leave the civilian populace. They are still sons of Sanguinius, and they refuse to leave people in need. Truly, the noblest Marines. And somehow, they held out against the entire Black Legion for 6 standard weeks. 6 weeks. How? Black Legion, which tens of thousands of Space Marines versus 1,000 Lamenters with bad luck, Jesus. But they managed to hold out until a rescue force led by the Ultramarines and the White Scars broke through and relieved the planet. Though, yeah, the Lamenters not doing too good. They only had 200 Battle Brothers and lost most of their support equipment and their fleet. But, to be fair, the Ultramarines and the White Scars and the Imperial Elite Force really applauded them, like, hey, you guys are pretty good. But then the Lamenters got on board their remaining few ships and headed into the warp. They were then lost in a giant fuck-off warp storm. So for the next 100 years, people wrote them off as dead, until they actually emerged from the warp, with even fewer Battle Brothers. Somehow. I don't know. And they emerged on the edge of the Segmentum Solar, so literally on the border worlds of the exact opposite of where they were supposed to be. And they had to fight through that again to get back from the outer void. Probably said hello to the space sharks on the way there. Who knows? Okay, real quick, sorry to interrupt, but there's this chap by the name of Imperial Servitor Dominus Prime, new 40k YouTuber, makes quality content, and I gave him a shout out on my community tab. And this mad lad made a short of us, the core, all of us, you, yes, you there. So go and give him a sub, go and give him a watch, great chap, amazing. Anyway, back to your regular scheduled content. Cheers. So, cut over about 3,000 years to 698 M41, they then loaded up and they had been back to a full 1,000 strength Marines. Pretty solid. Then we have the Ultramarines under Calgar who asked for the Lamenters, as well as the Angels of Absolution, Marines Errant, and the Silver Skulls to join together on a 7-long Imperial crusade to crush the Orc Empire of Caradon. Now the reason why they had to, and why did they have 5 full chapters of Space Marines, was because this particular orc has been trying to invade the empire of the Imperium for over 30 standard years. So after this campaign concluded successfully, the Lamenters were mauled. Yes, again. We don't know to what point. It says they suffered severe losses, but I would say 200, as they're often reduced to just 200 Marines. But we get into the Coran Crusade and the liberation of Slaughterhouse 3. You know it's gonna be a good name when it has Slaughterhouse in it. Not 1, not 2, but 3, which means there's probably 6. 40k. Shit is fucked. Now, this took place during the 7 long years of the Caradon Crusade, and this is where we get to the Lamenters. Now, as I said, this took place in the eastern fringes of the galaxy. Now, if we noticed back previously, the Lamenters had a soft spot for this place, as this had been their home away from home, where they actually found some love. So the Lamenters answered immediately. Now, this particular battle, they sent about a third of their chapter, 300 Marines, as well as their battle barge known as the Daughter of Tempest. Quality name. Now, they fought and fought and fought against the Greenskin in a series of wars and campaigns and battles, and they just took absolute hell upon them, and they did pretty well. That was until they reached to the world of Slaughterhouse 3. I don't know whether the Orcs or the Imperium named this. Now this is where it all went to shit though. Now this was an Orc mining world. The Orcs had captured this world, and they had thousands, if not tens of thousands, of human slaves funneled into this mines. And it was the worst possible conditions. Like, it had a casualty rate of like 90%. It's fucking hell. Now the Lamenters, seeing this, were like, oh my god, we need to save them. So they talked over to Calgar and they were like, hey, we need to save them. This is bad. Calgar, understanding it, but kind of reluctant due to the sheer nature of it, because it's a mining world, it's properly fortified, but he was like, yeah, okay, right, we do kind of need to help them. So the Lamenters, they slipped through the Orc lines as quickly as they could and absolutely wrecked their orbital defenses. Because of that, the main bulk of the Lamenter force could absolutely smash through them in a classic drop-style shock assault, which the Blood Angels and their descendants are famous for. Now, this was actually crazy because seeing all this happen and seeing Space Marines descend from the sky, funny enough, the slaves of the planet actually opened in full-on revolt, and they fought against them, which was crazy. Because, like, being a prisoner to an orc and you end up fighting with a shovel? Damn. And then lo and behold, a few hours later, the planet was in their hands. But there was a problem. Whereas thought that they had thousands, if not tens of thousands, it turns out there were actually 3 million human prisoners who had been lived. 3 million. Now, this wouldn't really be a problem if, you know, they went in the middle of an orc empire. You see, the orcs had found out what happened, and they were on their way to promptly show the Lamenters what happens when you mess with the greenest and the meanest boys. The Space Marines did not have nearly enough capacity to transport 3 million human prisoners. So the tech marines of the Lamenters were like, okay, these are orc ships, we need to figure out how the fuck to make them work. And they spent as much time as they could. While the remaining 200 or so Lamenters, yes, they lost a third of their people in an assault, unlucky bastards, and their battle barge were like, we will hold them off until they can. Now the orcs sent waves upon waves of just sheer utter garbage at the Lamenters. They threw everything, plus the kitchen sink and the goddamn bathroom sink as well. But the Lamenters are sons of Sanguinius, and through their sheer savagery and refusal to die, they managed to fight them off. However, it was during this that their luck took it really bad upon themselves again, because it was at this point that the Black Rage appeared. It turns out that the Red Thirst and the Black Rage had not been eliminated from the Lamenters, and it picked a hell of a time to show up. Now, these slaves are pretty fucking baller, because seeing the Lamenters dying left, right, and center and exploding in the Black Rage, they were like, right, you know what, this is it, we're done. They sent a message to the command upon the battle barge and were like, hey, we appreciate what you did, but you guys are not going to die for us. They decided that they would explode the planet. They used the seismic charges that had been placed honeycomb throughout the slaughterhouse in its mines and collapsed the tunnels. And now these tunnels were planet-wide leading into the core. So if you blew them up, you blew up the planet. They took solace in the fact that they would die as free men and women, rather than slaves to the orcs. And they would die saving Space Marines. Now, the Astartes on there were just like, no, we're not going to let that happen. So it turns out the battle brothers that were on the planets decided to stay with the slaves and die with them, whereas those fighting in orbit only managed to escape, meaning that only fewer than 100 battle brothers and their battered but still intact Daughter of Tempest escaped the system. Due to the time bought as well as the expertise of the tech marines, Lord knows how they did it, they were able to carry a full 300,000 of the slaves away. And as they left, the planet exploded. Now, in terms of a tactical sense, this was an astounding victory. Like 10 out of 10, 300 Lamenters liberated the planet, destroyed it. That was the main hub of manufacturing for the orcs. It was bloody crazy. The orcs had been set back by years in terms of war material and build-up. However, this is one of those things where their mentors were just like, hey, we don't deserve this. We don't deserve this one bit. We only saved a tenth of what we were supposed to. We lost so many, we suck. Now this is when Chapter Master Manius Calgar actually presented them with an iron halo for their efforts. The Lamenters, however, refused this honor, stating that they did not deserve it. Now this caused some of the Imperial allies to just say, hey, you are refusing this. You are deliberately insulting our commander. What do you mean? What's going on here? However, Calgar understood. The Lamenters believed that they did not deserve anything, as to them, they hadn't saved a tenth of the population. They had lost 9/10 of it. So while the Ultramarines would continue to see them in a good light, everyone else, not so much. Then we come to M41, year 812. So there is a rogue trader dynasty known as the Lan dynasty, and the Lamenters owe them about 1,000-year honor debt. So they decide, hey, we'll escort their latest descendant, Khazad Lan, and they were like, right, we're going to escort him throughout that. And this was about 4 squads, so about 40 Marines, give or take. And they fought alongside him as his honor guard for about a decade. And they undertook several boarding actions against traitor warships, Xenos, everything. And they were just doing really well. So at the end, they were like, right, we're just going to travel back home. This was then, however, when said ship suffered a massive, catastrophic warp failure and sucked them into the warp. Now, the surviving remnants of them were actually just stranded because they had no idea what to do. And it was at this point where a watch commander known as Mordigul of the Death Watch sought them out and was like, hey, you guys could help us with this, we could use you. And they decided, right, okay, we'll join up and we'll fight alongside the Death Watch. Fun fact, there is only one chap who's remaining of that original group in the Death Watch. And it's actually a dreadnought, and he hasn't seen his battle brothers for forever, and he believes he's actually the lost Lamenter, and he's very sad about it. And then we come to everyone's favorite, the Badab War. So, the Lament is one of the chapters assigned to the Maelstrom Wardens to guard the Maelstrom Zone, and they decided to stand with the Astral Cause, Mantis Warriors, and Executioners chapter, because they believe that the High Lords of Terror were just being dicks and wanting more money, which they were, although it was a big fuck up. Go and check out Dutch's video on it, he does a quality job. Pretty solid. Go and click right over here, this little corner. So now, it's important to notice that the Lamenters were not at full strength. During all this, they've been battered, bruised, but they were still sanguineous as sons, which means their close-quarter combat ability is second to none, except maybe for like the Space Wolves and, Sons of Horus. So, seeing how much of a threat they were, the High Lords of Terror were like, right, hey, Minotaur's chapter, who are constantly kept at full strength and have Dark Age of Tech weapons, go and fight them. Now, it's very important to understand that this is a full chapter of brutal Spartan Space Marines who outnumber them and have better tech than them and more everything. And the fucking Lamenters are badass because they pounded the Minotaurs into dust. The Minotaurs are said to suffer grievous losses. Well over half of their number have seemed to be killed by the Lamenters, because the Minotaurs struck at the chapter barge, basically their chapter fortress monastery that is on the battle barge of the Lamenters, and they were like, right, we're going to kill all of you. Now, they couldn't abandon this barge because it had not only their wounded, but all their broken tech as well as their Geneseed reserves. If they lost this, they lost the chapter. So this chapter barge, known as the Materm Lacorium, which was near the feral orbital world of Opatera, the Minotaurs launched a lightning attack and crippled the main plasma drive, preventing it from playing. So it was like, right, we need to fight at all costs now. It lasted 17 hours of brutal ship-to-ship, hand-to-hand combat fighting. Now mind you, the Lamenters were under strength and outgunned, and they still managed to kick about half of the fucking Minotaurs into the dirt. And these are Minotaurs, bro. These guys fuck hard. However, eventually, the majority of them were just, right, we have to surrender now. Because they had, God no, they had suffered tremendous losses. And the Minotaurs, if they got to the wounded, well, yeah, war crimes aren't a thing in 40k. So they surrendered. The majority of their fleet was utterly ruined, as was the vast majority of the Battle Brothers. So the Minotaurs were like, hey, we claim salvage rights. So they basically stole all their tech, all their relics, all their banners, and like this is ours now, fuck you. Whatever remained of the Lamenters chapter was incarcerated along a prison bulk. There were other elemental forces that were not in system that continued to fight valiantly. However, eventually the war would end, with the destruction of Badab Primaris and of itself. Approximately 1 year later, around the year 913 M41, the secessionists were placed on trial. Now, the Inquisition wanted full rights. It was like, we want this. This is ours. We want our blood. We want our pound of flesh. The Space Marines were like, no, this whole nonsense is the reason why we got into this problem. So, 5 separate councils of Space Marines decided that they were going to discuss the fate of these secessionists. Now, during this time, they discussed and they deliberated, and people were very worried because the very existence of these chapters were extinct. But after deliberation, they had determined that the secessionists were indeed guilty of breaking both the Codex Astartes and the ancient covenant of the Emperor that it represented, with the ringleaders being the Astral Cause being given full blame. However, they were forgiven, as it was decided upon that the reason why they had done this was not out of the sense of evil, or a sense of traitor, or a sense of self-interest. Rather, they had been misled and they had done it out of pride to protect the idea of a Space Marine, which of itself was said to be noble. So, the Space Marine Council, as well as the High Lords of Terror, decided that, hey, you guys are going to go on a 100-year-long penitent crusade to atone for their transgressions. So, what that means is that they would have to fight without recruiting neophytes to replace their losses for a full 100 years. So, this is essentially a coin toss, because it's like, hey, if you guys win, grand. But if you're the Lamenters and you get your ass handed to you for fighting even orcs, probably not going to do grand. So at the end of this, they had about 400 Space Marines left, give or take. We're not exactly too sure on the numbers, little conflicting sources here, but it's about 400 give or take. So, another fun fact for you. During the battle, their banner was tattered. Like, their main chapter banner was tattered and broken, and they were like, no, sad. But when the High Lords of Terror decided they were going their penitent crusade, their banner was actually given to a sect of the Sisters of Battle known as the Hospitalis sect. Now, the Hospitalis sect, not to be confused with the Templaris sect, they are the non-combatants, so they focus on the mending and healing, and basically, you know how whenever you see Sisters of Battle and they're drawing as sexy nuns? No, these are the actual sexy nuns right here. And fun fact, Sisters of Battle, they're not celibate. So, hey, good luck with that. But when the Adeptus Sororitas were sewing the banner, they actually began crying. Now, the reason why is that they were inspired by the Emperor, and that the great sacrifices for humanity, what happened at the end of the heresy, and quote-unquote the terrible sins of the Lamenters against him. Now, that's the official standpoint of the Inquisition. Though, it's posited by many others that the real reason why the Sisters of Battle wept were actually seeing the deeds of the Lamenters and how they suffered and how they would suffer, and they were so moved by these noble sons of Sanguinius. Now, I personally believe it's the latter, because fuck the Inquisition, could not give a shit about them. All my homies hate the Inquisition. Now, because of this, their main chapter banner became known as the Banner of Tears. From M13 onwards, they went on fighting, and they actually managed to succeed very much in their penitent crusade, until we get to the year 992 M41, so they're about 20 years off from finishing their crusade. So 80 years they somehow managed to survive. But, yeah. Then they ran straight into High Fleet Kraken. Oh, come on! Yeah, so that's nice. So less than 400 Space Marines against an entire High Fleet. So the Lamenters were like, fuck it, we're gonna die. It is what it is. So they decided to stand their ground, and they would take the brunt of the attack, leading the civilians to escape. And they were like, right, we're gonna die, we had a good run, it is what it is. And they fought like madmen possessed. Many of their brothers falling into the Black Rage, and being able to counter the sheer ferocity of the Xenos organisms. And so do they believe that they were indeed left to die. However, it turns out that they actually managed to survive, as there were about 200 Space Marines left after that whole shebang, and they, together with the remains of their Crusade fleet, managed to fall back to a certain planet. But said planet was directly in the path of the Tyranids. They're like, right, well, we managed to survive, but we're gonna die yet again. This was until, however, Bobby G came onto the scene, and he reunited with them and saved them from the evil buggos. And he reinforced the chapter to a full fighting strength with new Primaris Marines. So when the Lamenters finally, after like 4,000 years, got some good luck, and it took Gilliman returning. Also, side note, I just want to like put this out there. I swear to God, if it wasn't for the Red Thirst, I would say these bosses are sent from the Ultramarines, because the amount of times they've been destroyed and built back up in such a short time, their logistics and recruitment system, god damn, no wonder Bobby G saved them. He's like, you boys are good. But as to what they're doing right now, they, together with Captain Kairos of the Iron Lords, as well as a strike force led by the elements of the 2nd, 8th, and 10th companies to what is known as the Aberrant System. Now, this is together with the Knights of the Raving, as well as Size of the Emperor chapter, as well as some other Adeptus Astartes units. Now, it is in the Grendel Stars area, where they are defending it together with Inquisitor Chalice Taras of the Ordo Xenos to fight against a tendril of High Fleet Kraken. But not only are they fighting against the High Fleet Kraken, but they're also fighting against traitor forces and hyper-violent known as the Burgasi. Now, the big issue here is that the Burgasi are essentially big, bad, heresy, Great Crusade era level aliens. Like, imagine the Rangda. Yeah, these boys. Pretty fucking bad. Now, the issue being is that the Tyranids are on a direct path to the Burgasi. If the Tyranids reach the Burgasi, they then get the genetic information of the Burgasi. And for those of you who don't know how Tyranids work, if the Tyranids eat you, they become you.
Oh no.
So, having the Tyranids get DNA of aliens that can rip Space Marines in half, normally, that's a problem. So essentially, we have this small group of Space Marines and Imperials fighting a two-front war, preventing the fucking bugs from getting to the alien juice. Because if the alien juice gets into the bugs, we're gonna have bugs hyped up on alien juice. Alien juice bugs. That's gonna be fucking bad, mate. Not good. Very bad! And that brings us up to the history of the Lamenters. That's what they're doing, that's how they're acting. And yeah, so they're doing marketably better, still in a shit position, but hey, at least they're not alone, and their new peeps seem to like them. So yeah, could be much better, but definitely way better than anything they've done beforehand, so yeah. Pretty quality. But now, on to culture / Geneseed. The culture in the Geneseed. As I mentioned before, the Lamenters from the Curse founding. So that's when the Mechanicus mucked around with the Geneseed. Now, during this, their Geneseed is significantly more stable than the OG Blood Angels Geneseed, which means that they have no problem recruiting from anywhere in any population, which is a boon. Though, they still do suffer from the Black Rage and the Red Thirst. And this has actually had an adverse effect. You see, the Lamenters have been said amongst Blood Angel successors to feel more keenly the pain and the sorrow of Sanguinius than any other. As I mentioned before, they have a melancholic personality to them. Now this is twofold in my opinion. One, because of all the bad shit that happens to them, but two, because the Mechanicus messed with their Geneseed. They amplified that feeling of sadness and woe and shame that all sons of Sanguinius feel to like 10, but the trade-off being their Geneseed is more stable. And it felt like even more of a kick in the teeth when they actually did succumb to said issues with their Geneseed, and the Black Rage and the Red Thirst came in. Now, in terms of their more culture, Lamenters haven't really made friends with the Blood Angels. They've tried, but again, that whole idea of them being bad just really messed up their reputation. Because of that, they don't actually have that many artifacts and, tendencies of the Blood Angels do. Because most Blood Angel successors are very similar to the OG Blood Angels. The Lamenters are more like Blood Angels light. They still favor close quarters combat and shock assaults, but unlike the OG Blood Angels, they don't have that many relic weapons. They don't even have that many Terminator suits, to be honest. Hell, they don't even have that many Dreadnoughts. The closest thing they have are Predators and, use of armored warfare, but they don't really associate that much with them. Again, due to the nature of them just having that bad reputation. The one place where they do, however, match their Blood Angel counterparts 1-for-1 are the use of what is known as the Sanguinary Priest, the Apothecaries, the Calyx Priesthood in their version. Because recently they've had to add an 11th company known as the Death Company. Because as I said, their whole stir-up of the Black Rage is now coming full into light, and they need something to deal with it. So the Lamenters are pretty depressed. Like, their culture is just depression, ironically or unironically, depending on how you look at it. Because you take a look at everything that they've done and everything who they are, it's just sad. They really don't have much going for them. So the Lamenters are very much, we do this because we have to. We do this because we must. Not because they want to. Unlike the other chapters of the Blood Angels, whenever the Lamenters do any form of art or any form of creativity, they're literally the emo friend who writes depressive poetry. Like, I know it's a meme, but that's them. But unlike said emo friend, they actually have depression and they are messed up very badly and very sad. And it's just like you wanna give them a hug. You wanna give them a big ol' hug. And Lamento will be like, I don't deserve your love. And it's like, oh, my poor baby. Dude, I'd hug a Lamenter. I would. But that's all there really is about their culture. They're just very sad and depressed. Now, as for chapter organization, as I mentioned before, they don't really have any unique elements. They're only unique artifacts similar to other Blood Angels. They don't have any Furioso Dreadnoughts, they don't have any Sanguinary Guard, they don't have anything like that. Now, this is twofold. One, as I said, they don't really join together with the other descendants of the Blood Angels, so there is that divide. But also, they're a crusading fleet-based chapter, so they can't have too specialized gear because they have to be able to repair it at the drop of a dime. But they seem to follow the standard Codex Astartes principle, having a veteran company, a scout company, 4 battle line companies, a reserve assault company, a reserve tactical company, and a reserve destroyer company, as well as the previously aforementioned 11th company known as the Death Company. Apologies, no actual details on the different companies, we don't really know much about them, they're just standard units. In terms of how they fight, they are descendant of Blood Angels, so close quarters combat is their shtick. They favor shock assault as well as close support air tactics. And while they don't really have very much in terms of heavy assault, so they don't really have that many heavy-duty, heavy armor units, as well as Terminators are lacking, what they instead favor are a type of gunship assault, so Stormhawks and Storm Ravens. The idea is that the enemy will be there, you'll come in, you'll strafe them, you hit them with close air support, good old cast, love a cast, and then you will disgorge your content of shock assault units. It's an interesting type of combat in that it's designed to reduce damage, in a sense, as opposed to the traditional Blood Angel Shock Assault, which is quite literally dropping on top of you with everything in the kitchen sink. The Lamenters have learned to be a bit more tactful with how they do. This is most likely due to a combination of them, as I said, being a crusading chapter. They gotta be careful about what they do, but moreover, their sheer just absolute breaking. Seriously, when you have bad luck, you gotta be careful how much you throw. And this has seemed to work well. Not to mention, due to the Black Rage, they can absolutely destroy. Like, the Blood Angels and the Successors are the only Space Marines that have been consistently able, time and time again, to be able to fight off Tyranids at Horde level. Like, when you go Blood Rage? I mean, shit, no, that is what it is. Fucking shit gets wrecked. Again, we don't really have much in their organization. Most of their story is their history. However, one interesting fact is that they do have, in conditioning with Blood Angels lore, they have a very solid fleet. Now, their fleet consists of a grand total of 2 heavily powerful battle barges. Now, these battle barges are significantly stronger than the standard and are said to be 2 to 3 times as powerful, as well as their main fleet battle barge known as the Meta Lacorum. This is their mobile fortress monastery and incredibly powerful because it has a built-in portable repair dock. In addition to this, they have 2 Adeptus Mechanicus forge ships that support them. In addition to this, they also have 2 more battle barges, 6 strike cruisers, 3 Vanguard class cruisers, and 22 various escorts. So they have a pretty solid fleet. And this is after the Lamenters got their ass handed to them by the Minotaurs. So they had even more beforehand. And in terms of their appearance, they have a bright yellow mustard power armor, except for a red stripe on their helm as well as the right shoulder plate. And it's decorated with white and black checks, which is a pain in the ass to paint, and upon there a bleeding heart. And with that, let's wrap up the Lamenters. The Lamenters are a very interesting chapter in that we don't really know what's wrong with them. It's alleged that the reason why the Lamenters suffer such bad luck is because Chaos deliberately influences them to have said bad luck, because if they didn't, they would be a Blood Angel Space Marine chapter without the Black Rage. Now, granted, they did end up getting the Black Rage, but it's all out on that. It's all hearsay. We don't really know much about it. But what we do know for certain is that the Lamenters are up there for the most noble of Marines. Despite everything that's happened to them, allies abandoning them, their luck being horrible, getting the short end of the stick every single time, so they question, is there even a long stick to get? Being literally depressed Space Marines, they still serve with the utmost honor. They are a very unique type of character, and the reason why they become such a fan favorite and why everyone loves the Lamenters is because they are nobility incarnate. They are defiance incarnate. Everything about them should make them the perfect traitor legion. They should be traitors. They should betray the Imperium. They should give up. They, by all accounts, should turn coat and cut and run. Everyone expects them to. Yet, they will never consider it. And everything that's happened to them, they've never considered it. They will never yield. They will never betray the Imperium. And they will never stop fighting. And that's why people love them. They're honest, they're consistent, and they're noble. Despite everything that's happened to them, they choose to stand and fight. They choose to be a better person. And I think that's what really resonates with us people. Despite everything wrong that happens in our lives, they still find that time to be good people, to help people. We all love that one person in our lives that we know who suffered so much, yet they still find that love in the heart to help people. To me, the Lamenters are the perfect example of a stoic. Doesn't matter what the fuck happens to them, they just carry on and crack on regardless. It is what it is. We do what we do. And the Lamenters are a chapter, to me, of the poster boys for that. They are a chapter that, despite everything, continues to serve and be the truest, most noble embodiment of a son of Sanguinius. And hell, in recent times, they're on the up and up. They're full on with the Primaris. They have new Primaris gear. They recently established ties with the Blood Angels and the Gilliman and Dante in the Imperium Nihilus. Things are looking up with them. And who knows, maybe the noble Stoic has finally caught a break. But even if he hasn't, in the words of Marcus Aurelius, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. For the happiness of your life depends on the quality of thoughts. You are the master of your mind. The Lamenters know this, and they practice it every day. Right, ladies and gentlemen, that has been the Lamenters. Thank you very much for watching. I love you. I appreciate you. The schedule is still crazy. Yeah, I just need to find a rhythm. It's taking me a long time, a combination of work and me being lazy and tired, but it is what it is. I'll be trying to get shit out to you guys as much as I can. But thank you very much for watching. You guys are great. You guys are awesome. If you love what I do here and you just happen to have $1 that you do not want, you can head over to Patreon to subscribe per monthly. You get access to a bunch of awesome benefits. But if monthly fee is something that you do not care for, then you can drop me a super thanks as little as per $1. On the YouTube, you can just click down there in the description and be like a little thanks button. Be like, hey, thank you for this. You can just donate me one time. Be like $1, $5, as much as you want. But only consider doing such shenaniganery if you can afford it. Please do not worry about buying me a sandwich unless you first have a sandwich. Also, buymeacoffee.com that we have if you don't like Patreon for whatever reason, so that you can buy me a soda, and I would definitely spend it on a Diet Pepsi. Diet Pepsi superior to Diet Coke? I don't care who says what. Fight me. Otherwise, join the Discord to grab this awesome community. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that lovely stuff down below. Let me know, what do you guys want to see on this channel? Some cool ideas. Go over to HammerTalk to check out my brand new podcast with Mr. Dutch 40k, as well as go and check out Dutch. Grand guy, good man, bloody amazing person, you'll love him. And if you do happen to go there, comment down below and say that the General sent you. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, I have been General Bradley 101. You've been beautiful, awesome, and amazing people. Stay loyal out there, boys and gals, and I will catch y'all next time. Dismiss Rangers!
Save up to $7 on premium membership. Sign up today.